I'm Anna and you're watching Food Love. I'm making apple pie a la mode. It is so delicious. Now it does take some time to make this, but it's so worth it. And to see how, keep watching. So I'm starting with cutting up some butter that I'm going to chill, and this is for my pie crust. Now I'm going to cut this butter into cubes, and then I'm going to kind of like separate the cubes and throw them into a bowl, and then I'm going to put the entire bowl into the freezer. I want this butter to be really cold. I'm also using coconut oil that I'm going to chill, and I'm going to break into smaller pieces. Now, in the bowl of my food processor, I've added 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. To that, I've added a tablespoon of sugar and a 1/2 teaspoon of regular table salt. Now, I've kind of whizzed that all together just to make sure that the salt and sugar get worked into the flour. And then to that, I'm going to add my cold butter and my cold coconut oil. I've also got 6 tablespoons of ice cold water that I'm adding to this mixture as I pulse 1 tablespoon in 1 tablespoon increments at a time. Now I've added another 1.5 cups here of all-purpose flour, and I've added more water in 1 tablespoon increments. And then I've just pulsed this together until my dough has started to come together like this. So I'm going to take my pie dough and I'm going to cut it in half. And these will be our pie crust. One is for the top pie crust and one is for the bottom. So I'm just wrapping this in plastic wrap and kind of flattening it into a disc. Of course, I'm doing this with both of these, and they're going to go into the fridge to chill until I'm ready for them. So let's talk apples. So I have some Granny Smith apples and I have some Braeburn apples. Now, I chose these apples because the Braeburns offer some sweetness and good apple flavor, and of course the Granny Smiths are good for tartness. Now, you can choose whatever combination of apples you like. I like these two because they also both hold up very well during the cooking process. So I cored these apples and I sliced them a little thinner, and I've added them to a large bowl. And then I splashed them with about 1 tablespoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice. I've added some ground cinnamon, and here I'm just grating up some whole nutmeg. I'm adding some light brown sugar, and then some granulated sugar, and of course a little salt just to help balance out all of the sweetness. Now, I'm starting by using a wooden spoon to mix these apple slices, but I found that I needed to go in with my hands to get everything nice and coated, all of the apple slices coated in the juice, the lemon juice, and the spices and the sugars. So once I've done that, I have a pan that I'm going to heat to medium heat, and I'm tossing all of the apple slices and the juice into this pan, and I'm basically just going to saute these apples until they start to break down and become fork tender. Now for me, I do this step because it ensures for me that I will not overcook my apples during the baking process and that I won't undercook them during the baking process. So as you can see, I'm removing the apples from the heat. They've broken down quite a bit. I'm adding quite a bit of cornstarch to the apples, and I'm going to give them a stir. Now I'm putting these apples in the freezer because I want them to be completely chilled before I add them to my pie crust. So here I'm rolling out my pie crust. Now, when I took this out of the fridge, I did allow it to sit on the counter for about 5 minutes. It just makes it easier to work with. Don't worry if you have a few tears or rips in your pie dough. You can totally go back and fix that. Now, I'm making sure that the surface of my pie dough is floured very well, because here I'm just loosely rolling the pie dough onto my rolling pin. And then here I am just carefully, gently unrolling the pie crust over my pie dish. So I'm just fitting the pie dough to the pie dish. And don't worry if you have spots where part of your pie crust may be cracked or broke off. You can totally go back and fix that. Now with the excess pie dough, I'm just taking my kitchen shears and I'm just trimming that off. And then this is going to go into the refrigerator as well to chill. Now for our top crust, we're going to roll it out a little bit differently. I'm using a couple of sheets of wax paper that I floured lightly. And I'm just gently rolling the dough out over or onto the wax paper. Still making sure that the surface of the dough and the rolling pin is well floured to prevent sticking. And then this is going to go into the refrigerator to chill until I'm ready. Now here to my apples, I'm adding some homemade caramel sauce that I made about a week ago for some ice cream for my kids. You can omit this part, but I promise you it tastes really, really good. So here I'm adding the apple pie filling to our chilled pie crust. And now we're going to place the top crust over the pie and just center it. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but then we just peel back the wax paper and as easy as that, we have our top crust on. And I'm basically doing the same thing with this crust. I'm just trimming off the excess with my kitchen shears. And here I'm just sealing together the top crust and the bottom crust. And here I'm just going around the border of the crust and I'm crimping it. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy and it doesn't have to be perfect, because I promise you whatever type of little crimps you use is going to give character to your pie, and your pie is going to look rustic and homemade and be beautiful. So I'm just taking a knife and I'm cutting a couple of slits in the top of the pie just to make sure that the air can escape. And then I'm topping, well, I'm brushing the top of my pie with some egg wash, and then I'm topping my pie with some raw sugar. I'm gonna bake it off at 400 degrees for 30 minutes and voila, apple pie time. So I totally suggest that you let this pie completely cool before trying to cut it. And here is our a la mode, our homemade vanilla ice cream, and then some more of that delicious caramel sauce. Please don't forget to subscribe, guys, so you can get all of my videos. And until next time, I'm wishing you joy and lots of food love.